Commissioners, I'll call to order the July meeting of the Oxford Planning Commission. You have the agenda before you. Please note on the printed agenda, not the online agenda, but the printed agenda, we have one item on the consent agenda, and it also appears as item number 15 under the public hearings, but that's a typo, so it's just on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or other changes to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda? There is a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Would somebody let me know if any of the other commissioners join online? Thank you. All right. Ben told me there's no staff report. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes from the June meeting? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. There was one case that was administratively approved, and we have one case on the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to have any discussion on the consent agenda case? Anyone here or in the audience? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. That brings us to the public hearings. Our first public hearing will be case number 3101. Blackburn Group has filed a request for a special exception as provided in section 2.6.7 Suburban Center, ground floor residential for the Summit for property located at Ed Perry Boulevard.
Okay, as JR just mentioned, the applicant seeks a special exception to locate ground floor residential in the Suburban Center District. The subject property measures around 13.99 acres and is located off Ed Perry Boulevard and Highway 30. The proposal is for a multifamily residential development and related buildings like office, clubhouse, maintenance building, pool, and other amenities. The Suburban Center District is meant to feature large commercial uses. Uses often include retail, office, and other commercial usage. However, multifamily residential and single-family attached residential or other allowed structure types with first floor residential as is requested here by special exception. As noted in the information provided by the applicant, the overall development will be mixed use. The applicant notes that once the master plan is developed, there'll be a healthy mix of uses, and notes that this portion of the development, which is the first to be built, will be the furthest from the other developed areas. The proposal is only for the first portion of the overall Summit development. The lots fronting Ed Perry Boulevard are not a part of this first phase of the development, and the rear and side portions of the property border existing single-family homes. Staff finds that the location of ground floor residential is appropriate in this context. The other lots located to the west would be a more appropriate place to locate ground floor commercial uses. And staff has not received feedback from the public either for or against the special exception. So staff recommends approval of this request with the finding that granting the special exception will not adversely affect the public interest.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? All right. Anyone from the audience would like to speak? If not, is there a motion on case number 3101 for the special exception for ground floor residential?
I'd make a motion to approve the special exception.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second on the end?
I got it.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's granted. That brings us to case number 3102. Northeast Mississippi EPA has filed a request for a special exception as provided in section 5.6.1.8, inappropriate appropriate facade for property located at 1389 Cooperative Way.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Good evening. This is a request by Northeast Mississippi Electrical Power Association. The subject property is in the northeast quadrant, Highway 30 and Highway 7. The property is zoned industrial. The applicant is requesting a special exception to allow all metal buildings. The applicant did receive a site plan approval, a areas for any park, and this building will help shield them from the weather elements. I think it's important to note the proposed building is located on the interior of the site. It's positioned similarly to other buildings on the campus, and the proposed building will be consistent in size and height as the other buildings in the campus. With that, staff recommends approval of the request after making the finding that the proposed metal building, Berea, and industrial district, and its other similar buildings, and have one condition of approval that the expected acceptance shall expire. Building permit is not issued with an AC.
Thank you, Ben. It's a little bit hard to understand part of it, but the content is that it's a building with a metal facade, and it's consistent with the rest of what's on that site, and the staff doesn't find that it has any adverse effect on the public. All that accurate?
That's correct.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the commission? Anyone from the audience that would like to speak? All right, is there a motion on the special exception for case number 3102?
I make a motion that we approve with the one staff condition.
Motion to approve with the staff condition, is there a second? Second. There's a second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Special exception is granted, which takes us to case number 3103. Velvet Ditch Coffee has filed a request for special exception as provided in section 2.6.7, traditional neighborhood business, ground floor residential, for property located at 1316 North Lamar Boulevard. Robert?
Subject property is a little over 0.18 acres located on North Lamar, just north of Varner Loop. The parcel currently houses a single-story residence that the applicant is looking to remodel into a roastery, coffee shop, and 3-bedroom residential unit. The site plan is currently under review by staff. The special exception is to facilitate that site plan. Ground floor residential is a special exception in TNB districts. In this instance, the applicant proposes to use roughly the back half of the existing structure as a 3-bedroom unit. Because the applicant is proposing to retain the existing structure with minimal changes to the exterior, and due to the existing residential surrounding the site, staff believes that residential is appropriate in this instance. The adaptive reuse of this building to commercial and the retention of some residential does not foreclose on the possibility of a larger commercial redevelopment of this and the surrounding residential parcels, much like has been seen in other spots along North Lamar corridor. And staff recommends approval of the requested special exception with the finding that the retention of ground floor residential at this location does not harm the public interest, with the condition that approval is for the plan as submitted, subject to necessary technical revisions by the Site Plan Review Committee.
Thank you, Robert. And on this one, I guess my gloss on it is that it's a structure that predates the zoning, and this change actually brings it closer to the new zoning than what's there. Yeah. Any questions or comments?
I guess my one question is, do you think there will be enough parking? Is it mainly going to be a roastery or a...
I believe mostly a roastery. Yeah, there's not going to be a drive-through or anything like that. Parking for the residential section, if I remember, the site plan is in the rear. It's not it really isn't a whole lot of, ground of shop floor that would be open to the public.
Additional questions? Anyone from the audience or online?
So, just to clarify, you're saying it's mainly a roastery, not a coffee shop?
So I believe that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you've got the existing structure there. Right. The back half of that's going to be residential, and then kind of the front half of that's going to be a roastery. The other half will be a coffee shop. So really, you're not looking at that large of a square footage of a public access area.
And will the parking be done in the site plan approval?
Yes. And that site plan approval is going to be small enough that that'll be an administrative approval.
Any final questions? If not, is there a motion on case number 3103 for the special exception?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the one staff condition.
Motion to approve with the staff condition, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Case number 3104, Lauren Renfro has filed a request for a variance from section 5.5.2.6 site design standards, fence height for property located at 812 South Lamar Boulevard. Okay.
So this is a residential structure that's located at the corner of South Lamar and Buchanan. It's a house that's listed in the South Lamar Historic District. The applicant plans to replace an existing wood fence along the south and west property lines, and they're requesting a variance from the design standards for fence height for the portion of the fence that fronts Buchanan Avenue, which is required by code to be 4 foot in height as it's considered a front yard. Existing fencing on the site along Buchanan is curved along the top and varies from 5 feet to 6 feet in height. And the applicant is proposing to replace that with a new 7-foot tall fence with posts up to 7 foot 4 inches. Typically, fencing over 4 feet tall should be set back behind the side elevation of the building before additional height is considered appropriate. However, due to the location of the pool and the size of the lot, that's just not possible on this site. The applicant has attempted to screen this area with landscaping, and that has been unsuccessful. And staff finds that the requested variance is appropriate. As the lot has 2 fronts, the applicant does not have the opportunity for screening that's available to other applicants with interior lots. Staff is recommending approval of the fence height variance with 2 conditions. And I will note that that second condition, that a certificate of appropriateness is required, the applicant has already filed for that, and the proposed design does meet the recommendations of the design guidelines. So that will go forward if the variance is approved.
One question about the conditions. Is the extent of the requested variance supposed to follow the dashed line in the figure? Or is it for all of the fence?
I believe it's for the whole Buchanan side, right? Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. Any other questions? Anyone from the audience that has questions or would like to speak? If not, is there a motion on the variance for case number 3104?
I'd move to approve the variance, subject to the 2 staff conditions.
Motion to approve, subject to staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The variance is granted. That brings us to case number 3105. 7 Brew Coffee has filed a request, 2 requests. The first is a special exception as provided in section 3.8.9.5.b, restaurant's drive-through window. And the second is a variance from section 2.6.7, traditional neighborhood business, front yard build-to line, maximum for 7 Brew Coffee property located at 1615 University Avenue.
Yes, this property is located at the intersection of University Avenue and South 17th Street. It's zoned traditional neighborhood business, and it measures approximately 0.6 of an acre. Applicant's proposing a 7 Brew drive-through coffee shop that includes a walk-up window. And in order to facilitate this development proposal, the applicant is requesting a special exception for the drive-through use and a variance to the east build line requirement. So we'll deal with the special exception first. 7 Brew Coffee is a national chain. It has approximately 250 locations throughout the country. This proposal is for a smaller building. It measures about 510 square feet. It does include double-stacked drive-through lanes. It has a large cooler and storage area at the rear of the property. The applicant has modified the typical 7 Brew concept so that it complies with the City of Oxford standards. These items include the location of the cooler in the storage area, the second story, the blue LED lighting found on the building, and the materials used for the building. The T&B district, a drive-through business requires a special exception, and it must have sufficient stacking space to prevent backup onto its access roads. So in this instance, the primary concern is the potential for queuing traffic to extend onto the right-of-way on University Avenue. The applicant does believe that there's sufficient stacking space as provided, which is about 20 spots. Staff has not received any additional information regarding the typical queue, although at the time of the report, we hadn't. I did forward on to you some information that was provided by the applicant, Mr. John, who I believe is in the audience and can speak to this. But similar to Starbucks on Jackson Avenue, if 7 Brew is inundated with customers in their queue, the only place for cars to go is on the University Avenue. And the commission held lengthy discussions regarding Dunkin' Donuts and Shadrack's, which ultimately influenced the site design to ensure that vehicles backed into the shopping center site as to not impede traffic. This site does not have this luxury. While the queuing of this proposal is a primary concern for staff, it is not the only concern. In the TFB district, it does require a second story that's at least 51% functional space of the building footprint. The proposal indicates a second story that measures about 239 square feet, which is less than the 51%. Also, this space is only accessible by a sit-down attic ladder. It is important to note that the applicant did suggest that if the city desires an exterior staircase to the second floor, then they will incorporate it. In prior iterations of this proposal, the second floor was indicated for a mechanical room. However, the plans now indicate the space as a second floor room. The commission may wish to discuss that or the intended functional use of the space. In conversations with the applicant, they did note that they intended to use the space as storage. So I anticipate that to be true. Staff did express a concern regarding the blue LED lights used along the trim of the building and the canopy structure. And blue LED lights do produce more glare to the human eye due to the longer wavelength. Staff believes that this can create a safety concern. The applicant did attempt to address this concern by channeling the light in a similar way to Sonic on University Avenue. Staff has concerns with the proposal, including the potential for this development to create safety issue with customer queuing backing into University Avenue. Additionally, staff does not believe that the second floor area complies with the city's requirements. The commission may wish to discuss if the connected hallway and the storage area should be incorporated into the building footprint for determining the 51% second floor area. Staff recommends that the commission determine that the proposal sufficiently meets the queuing space needed for the location, but the second floor complies with the spirit and the intent of traditional business requirements. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions. Approval for the plan is submitted with any necessary revisions by the Site Plan Review Committee, and the proposal is to be modified to incorporate a staircase for the second story. As for the variance to the front yard build-to line, because this is property located at a corner, it actually has two front yards. So there's a front yard towards University Avenue and a front yard towards 17th Street. In this instance, the building is positioned in a way that it fronts towards University Avenue, which is the primary access point for the site, and it's positioned farther away from 17th Street, thus requiring a variance. Staff believes that there is a sufficient hardship in this instance to support the requested 16.5-foot build-to maximum variance with the condition that the approval is for the plan as submitted.
Thank you, Ben.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, all that was great, thank you. Questions from the commission?
I don't, not for Ben, but I was saying for,
Is the applicant present?
yeah.
Good evening, Joey Moore, JM Engineering.
Can you just provide some clarification about the second floor use?
Yes, we noticed this morning, actually, there was a typo from the architect. So the measurements, if you actually multiply the measurements out on the building plan, it's actually 259.9, which I'm going to round up to 260, which puts us at 51%. And I think the plan actually calls it out as 239. So I just want to make that clear to you guys that it will be the 259.9 square foot on the second floor, which puts us at that 51%. I can talk a little bit about the stairs if y'all have any questions about that, because it's kind of been a back and forth with us. So like Ben said, these guys are nearing 250. I think John said today that they were right around 240 stores. This attic access to their second story storage is what works for them and is operational for them. There's, I wouldn't say gray area, but what that second floor needs to be to operate to meet city code is just functional space, and it's functional for them. So we have kind of told planning that we would put in an exterior staircase to access that space if that's what you guys want us to do. But on our, just on our part and our business, on their business model, this is what works for them and all the stores that they have all over the country.
Other questions?
Well, I don't know if you, Joe, if you got, an answer to this, but, my understanding of kind of the overarching theme is that we're trying to look at these projects, not just as far as what this use will be, but what the potential use will be, down the road in the future, if they decide to move or, just pull the plug on it. And it seems like this is a hard property to do anything else with.
Yes, and just, the first floor is 510 square feet. I mean, this building is specific to this use.
To this use.
So like, I honestly think if these guys moved and this site was gonna be, turned into something else, this 500 square foot building might have to go and they have to build something bigger. I mean, that's just, the model that they're using and how it works. And if somebody can make that space work, fantastic. But, it's small, just like, I don't know what Dunkin's is down the street, how big that building is. It's probably a little bit bigger, but they're small. The coffee shops have gone to a small model here lately.
What about the queuing of the traffic?
So we had the corporation's traffic analysis. He gave us a report and they looked at a peak time. And I don't know if you got a copy of that study or not, but I'm just going to read what they said. So we're storing. We've got 20 to 21, whether or not you count that last space on the south side as 21. I'm going to call it 20. And so they said that during their they measured this, basically the traffic count for their site. During their 2 hour peak period, the average number of vehicles that were queued were only 5, because they're trying to obviously operate, get people in and out as fast as they can. During that 2 hour maximum peak time, which would be the busiest time of the day, the maximum queue got up to 14 vehicles. So they have looked at this. Believe me, they don't want the vehicles to be backed up, because all that does is hurt the business, because all it takes is one person to drive through and say, it's too busy, I'm going somewhere else. So it's in their best interest to keep these cars moving through. And I think, John, what he told me earlier today about, the average time, is, way less than 5 minutes about trying to get somebody on the property and off. And so, that's what they've studied. They think they have way more than what's required, but they're obviously trying to provide as much as they can to keep any kind of pressures off the university.
So the report that I got was just a letter from Seven Brew with peaks.
Sure.
And it says observed sites had a peak 2 hour operational window from 7:15 to 9:15. Peak hour commonly exceeds 60 vehicles per hour. What are the observed sites? Are those observed sites in Oxford or elsewhere?
It wouldn't be in Oxford. John, do you know where they studied these?
Yes, Chairman. There were other Seven Brew stores in populated areas as Oxford.
Okay. I guess part of my question is, it's speculation what the maximum trips will be, right? And so there are 250 other stores. In those cases, has the peak number of cars or the stacking been commensurate with what was predicted before construction? Or if there were cases where it overshot, what were those cases?
And John, he'll be able to answer that way better than I can. I don't know if you've got an idea, John, of what y'all normally put in for the number of stacking spots that y'all.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for being here. So on our stores, our business is run, it's a culture of kindness, and the success of our business is literally built on how quickly we can move our customers through. So on this site here, we have roughly 24 to 25 parking spots in lanes 1 through 2. But after meeting with Ben, Kate, and Robert, and by the way, the staff has been phenomenal the last 4, 5, 6 months to work with. You'll notice in the diagram, there's a pass-through lane. So that's a third lane. So in areas that we are concerned, such as in, I'll give an example, Jonesboro, Arkansas, we're right near Arkansas State University. So the local administration, the mayor, and the police all had the same question. So we put in the pass-through lane. That pass-through lane for us allows us to move a third lane of cars in if needed, and we can service that third pass-through lane. So we don't have to move them into lanes 1 and 2. So once we move those cars in, our staff takes orders outside. So just like Chick-fil-A, that's exactly what we do. So our staff walks to the cars.
Or they can pass through the park.
Well, I think what he's saying is that the pass-through lane normally acts as pass-through, but it could be a third lane of stacking if
Yes.
needed.
We put it in an instance like this, or if there's, for cases where it's limited space, in case there was an emergency, we've had them before, where an ambulance has to show up for somebody that's in line. Or if it's a busy time of day and the trash service shows up at the wrong time and not early in the morning.
What I was asking, on that west side, you could pass through and park on that west side, could you not?
Yes, sir.
And then walk in, because you're going to walk in also.
Yes, we will have walk-in. The majority of our business, however, is drive-through.
Is it your anticipation that most of, I don't know how many employees you have, but most of those parking spaces will be taken up by employees?
They will. So we will hire in Oxford roughly 50 employees to start. And my wife is here in Candace. She actually runs all of our stores in 4 states. So we sometimes will have as many as 10 to 12 staff in a given hour or two. So to explain it best, we don't have like 6 employees that work we're open from 5:30 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night, Sunday through Thursday, and Fridays till 11. So you're not going to have someone that works 5:30 to 11. You won't have like an entire shift. So the way we schedule is on those peak times. So that 7:15 to 9:15 hour, we would staff up that. We might have 12 people there, and at 9:30, you would see 3 or 4 or 5 of those individuals leave, is what would happen.
And so will those staff persons be taking up most of the parking?
Yes. So it's hard to say. We put in 10. Initially, we had less spaces, and I think it was Ben or Kate had made the recommendation, asked us if we could put in more just in case, and we said yes, sure. Because what we find is most of our employees are 18 to 24 years old. We call them team members, and often they transit to the site together. So they might be attending school at Ole Miss or at the local high school, and they'll come together in a car.
Other questions?
I think that, I mean, it's coffee, so it moves pretty fast as it is in making and getting cars in and out, but, so I live in this area, and the donut shop next to it, there's already, when it's not summertime, there is a line out into University from the donut shop. And so it's not necessarily, can y'all move them in and out, but it's more or less the safety concern that the traffic might cause. Because y'all are, I don't know how far apart that is from your drive to their drive, but that's just the concern of the traffic. And with a small little space right here, so between the 2 businesses.
No, I completely understand. And again, everything we do is to move cars as quickly within our business model, which is our business, we're a culture of kindness. That's not just to our customers, but that's internally within our staff. And so we work, it's not in our interest to have cars stacked out in the road, and we have a lot of experience doing this. in like areas that are limited that have had expressed the same concern. And hence we put in more spaces in the 2 lanes than needed, what we project, and then we put the pass-through lane in just as a backup in case.
Is this, I'm sorry, I've not been to one of your stores, I apologize.
Well, hopefully
I've heard of them before, but,
Thank you.
is this just coffee or their food items
No,
as
we
well?
just serve coffee. Now, my wife gets mad at me because we actually do serve a muffin top.
Okay,
So it's a muffin top.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's a big item, but we started maybe a couple of years ago selling because every now and then someone would ask, do you have and it comes in a little plastic bag and it
Okay.
comes with your drink.
which also helps with time and not having to prepare food.
Oh,
so-
that's correct. We've been pushed very hard to, by a lot of friends to sell food. We're not going to do that at all.
I think Ben mentioned that you were open to putting the exterior staircase up to the 2nd floor.
So one of our goals is always not just to come into a town, and I mean this sincerely. I grew up in a very small town, so we want to be part of the town. We want to be part of the community, part of the culture. We come in, we partner with a local charitable organization in every single town we come into. And so to that regards, when they start talking about the 51%, and I apologize for Joey that our architect had the number wrong, and they did, on our plans. But what I've told the staff is we want to be in Oxford. I have a lot of friends in Oxford. I have family that went to the University of Oxford. So we are willing to do what's needed that fits within the parameters of this city. We've even put in awnings that we've never done before.
Understood. I guess where I was going with that was mainly where the staircase would be, given.
It would be in the back.
In the
at
back,
the back of the building.
Gotcha. All right.
So in our storage area that we're referencing, so when you think of a storage area, what's up there, it's probably 10 or 12 feet, but we store all of our cups. We go through a lot of cups. So our cups, straws, cup lids, and our beans. So our beans come in small bags, just if you've gone to Starbucks or any other store, and they just flip into our grinders. So we store those upstairs as well.
One more question. You got a bunch of locations from, presumably some of those are in university towns as well.
Many. We just opened today in Tuscaloosa.
How does the stacking in this design compare to what you have in other university towns?
This is probably 90% of our locations are smaller than this in stacking. Mm-hmm. Our largest one is actually in the Jonesboro, Arkansas that I referenced, and with all 3 lanes, it's about the same as this, 36 cars. I don't believe we've ever had it full, ever. Mm-hmm. But our lot there was bigger. We're right beside the university, and we're on their main access into the university road that has 42,000 cars a day. So we couldn't be on the road. And we have not had an issue. Hence the reason, we spent a lot of resources to make our sites larger and stacking than you would see at other places before this reason.
All right. Any other questions from the commission? Anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this case?
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Is there any particular reason, Robert, that you know of, that the department wanted a outside rather than the pull down?
And Ben can jump in here. I believe that goes towards the functionality of the space, and again, as Kirk was talking about, going towards not just this use, but again, any potential redevelopment of the site going forward, making again that 2nd floor a functional 2nd story.
May I?
Please.
Again, we're willing to put stairs if that's a requirement. We're happy to do that. It will be, so as of today, with our 3 stores, we have 245 stores in 31 states. And this would be the first store with stairs outside, but we're happy to do that. And so, and again, our space upstairs is storage. And we're just like any other restaurant. We have spent immense amount of time downstairs in our limited space, the way it's laid out, and we changed it often in 5 years where each piece of equipment is, so our flow through for our customer is as quick as possible, including the access of our supplies.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the difference between a pull-down ladder and a stairwell is just, as soon as we allow a pull-down ladder, we're gonna see a lot of applications for second stories with pull-down ladders.
Sure.
Yeah, so to
That's fine.
keep it functional, I think it's wise to do that. Other comments or questions? If not, is there a motion on case number 3105? There'll be 2 different pieces. First, the special exception for the drive-through window.
I move that we grant a special exception for the drive-through window with the staff conditions.
Second.
All right, I have some discussion on that. Would the 2 of you consider a third condition, which makes the special exception conditional on not having any stacking come out into University Avenue?
As we did with the,
It's basically the same we did with, did we do it with Shadrack's or Dunkin'?
we did with Duncan.
Yeah. Yeah. You're agreeable? Sure.
I was not here for that.
So basically, and y'all should understand this too, and Pope, jump in if you need to, but the idea is that the use of the drive-through is basically conditional on managing that traffic so that it doesn't back up and become a safety hazard. If it backs up, it gives the city the right to shut it down, basically.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, and I will say one more thing, but I think it's funny, I've been at the donut and the coffee meetings the last time I was at the Dunkin' Donut. And I think you all put the same condition on them. And I gave the same little lecture that it won't be a taking if we have to shut you down. It will be a condition, and they can impose any conditions they wish on special exception of your continued operation under that special exception, is that it not create problems on University Avenue. You have confidence it won't, but just know that's an expensive takedown if it happens.
I think Ben expressed that in our first meeting.
So, just want to make sure you.
All right, so you're okay with that amendment, and how about you, the second? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve subject to 3 conditions now. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, it's great. So now we go on to the variance, which is for the front yard build-to line. Is there a motion on the variance?
I make a motion to approve the variance on the front yard build-to line, subject to the 1 staff approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Thank you all
Joey.
very much.
All right, that brings us to, get back to my agenda here. Case number 3106, Grand Southern Ventures Incorporated has filed a request for a plat amendment for Southwood subdivision lots 7B and 7C for property located at 2117 Old Taylor Road. Kate?
So this property is located on Old Taylor Road in between Old Taylor Road and Bickerstaff Lane, just north of the Belk Boulevard intersection. The applicant requests an amendment to the subdivision to combine lots 7B and 7C into a single lot. The newly created lot would measure around 0.39 acres in size, and the applicant intends to build a house on the newly combined lot. Mississippi subdivision law requires that the applicant proposing any change in a platted subdivision notify all the persons to be adversely affected thereby or directly interested herein, and requires their signature of approval of the proposed modification, and that identification is left to the discretion of the applicant. In this request, the adjacent property owner has provided a letter consenting to the modification. If it's determined that there are no others directly interested or adversely affected, then staff recommends approval of the requested plat amendment with 2 conditions.
Thank you, Kate. And did you receive any communication from the public?
We did not.
Okay. All right. Anyone from the commission have any questions, comments? Anyone from the audience? If not, is there a motion on case number 3106 for the plat amendment?
Move to approve, subject to the staff conditions.
There's a motion to approve, subject to the 2 staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Any opposed? No. And that takes us to case number 3107. Smith Building Supply LLC has filed a request for a site plan amendment for Smith Building Supply for property located at 4281 Highway 334.
All right, subject property is about a little over 3.5 acres. Property was recently annexed into the city in 2018, and Smith Building Supply has been in operation at this location for over 60 years. And they own a lot more property than the existing operation. The entire site is a little bit over 10.5 acres. All of it's zone TND. Majority of this property owned by Smith is undeveloped. And so this request is to amend the September 23 site plan to move 10 spaces that were originally on the interior of the site, right amongst all the building materials, to the north of the site, on the north of the main office, which is one of the best ideas I have ever heard, having used Smith Building Supply quite a few times. For use and parking, both use and parking requirements remain unchanged with the amendment. Coverage will increase very minimally, but it's still way under 80%. And for landscaping, the 2 previously approved landscaping islands will also be eliminated, and 2 new end of aisle islands will be with appropriate parking lot trees are proposed. Engineering's got a couple of comments related to water and sewer, traffic and access, sidewalks, and stormwater management, and staff recommends approval with the 4 conditions that are listed in your staff report.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions from the commission? John, any concerns about the stormwater? I just don't want to leave engineering out. We're running out of cases. Good. Any comments from the audience? All right. If not, is there a motion on case number 3107 for the site plan amendment?
Make a motion, we approve the site plan amendment with the following 4 staff conditions.
All right. Motion to approve with the 4 conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And our final case for the evening, case number 3108, Collegiate Realty has filed a request for site plan approval for Ivy Place Phase 3 for property located at 1207 Ivy Road.
This property consists of 2 parcels that combined measure approximately just over 6.5 acres. Property is located on Varner Loop, Ivy Road, and Rogers Road. The applicant previously developed this property with phases 1, phases 2 of Ivy Place development, which contain approximately 20 duplex units. The applicant is now proposing phase 3, consisting of 16 units, 10 of them are detached units, and 3 of them duplexes, and these will all be part of a ID development. The applicant is proposing 10 3-bedroom units and 4-bedroom duplexes on the site. Complies with the density limitations. 4-bedroom duplexes are allowed only by special exception, and staff has not received this request. In speaking with the applicant, they will likely seek a special exception for these 4-bedroom units at a subsequent meeting, and a condition of approval is added that the proposed units will only be 3-bedroom units. RCID is allowed by special use at this location. The applicant has provided an application. However, we still have ongoing conversations with the applicant's attorney and engineer to fulfill all the requirements of the RCID. A condition of approval is included for that element. Units 21 through 28 are all oriented towards with the front facade facing Varner Loop, Rogers Road, and the remaining units will be situated on the interior of the site. The proposal sufficiently meets the parking requirements, and it complies with the coverage requirements. The landscaping, tree mitigation, and building height materials all comply with the city standards. Engineering did provide comments related to water and sewer, traffic and access, sidewalk, and stormwater management. Staff recommends approval of Ivy Place Phase 3 with following 6 conditions in the staff report.
Thank you, Ben. Questions from the commission?
I've got two. One has to deal with on Varner Loop. You know, there's a low spot behind the beacon that frequently floods back there, and I'm just wondering, what's the thought there?
Right. Yeah, we're aware of that. I'm sorry, Paul Cushnina with the Precision Engineering. That area does flood. We've had conversations with engineering staff and previous engineering staff for quite a few years about that, and I don't know that there's a clear understanding of what's happening downstream. I think that pipe is possibly collapsed, or we don't know, right? So, I mean, it's not technically, I mean, the drainage does come from the property that Jordan owns, but the fact that it can't drain is really not caused by his property. It's a difficult situation we've been trying to figure out for years now.
If I could add, Paul.
Sure.
As far as interpreting your design, the new addition will have the drainage draining the opposite way, so no new water will be going in that direction, will be going away toward Park Drive.
That is true. I mean, we are providing the stormwater detention that's required by the code, but we are trying to divert some portion of it the opposite direction while still meeting the pre-development flows as they exist today.
The only other question I have is on the backside where your other access is, or where the new access will be. Is that Rogers Road, is that wide enough to handle that traffic, do you think?
Well, honestly, I think 99% of the folks that live at the new project and at the existing homes will come in off Ivy Road and probably not off Rogers Road. Really, that was intended to be just a way for emergency access or garbage trucks to be able to get out. It is narrow. It's an existing city street, but I think it should function as we intend for the project.
Jordan, would you consider putting a statue of great Oxonians that have lived at 1202 Varner Loop up?
You know, I was going to ask Mr. Cronin.
I lived there for 8 years.
Well, I'm glad you asked that because you probably knew who goes with it.
Well, he's my uncle, so yeah.
And Mr. Sprague, I know you do, so Duke was nice enough to sell me that house years ago.
Yeah.
And, over the last 20 years, people say, well, you know, how long have you been planning this? And truly, it's been about 20 years because I bought the first piece at the end of 04, 05, and just, that was Rogers Road, and then Duke a few years later. But it's been, he's a great guy.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. No, I'm happy
since
to
you
see
brought up
somebody doing
takings.
something with it.
I did not come prepared to present a statute.
All right. Other questions? For the record, we're not making the statute a condition.
No.
All right. All right.
And I guess we got to come, just a quick question I had back next month for the special exception.
That's entirely up to you. Assuming.
We'll be working with Ben to make that application. Honestly, this may be on my part a little bit of a misinterpretation between duplex and a townhome is really sort of defined as a very similar thing. And 4 bedrooms are allowed in a townhome by right and not in a duplex technically. So anyway, it's, yeah.
So our plan had been to come today to present the 4 bedrooms, but this technicality, Ben called me and said, you need to make a special exception so you can amend next month maybe.
Right, like a site plan.
Yeah, so
That's our intent.
the conditions stated here, if it's approved, that carries with it the 3 bedrooms. If you want the 4th bedroom, it'd just be a special exception. But the approval's there for the 3 regardless if it passes. Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the commission or the audience? All right, if not, is there a motion on case number 3108 for the site plan approval for the Ivy Place?
I would make a motion to approve, subject to the 6 staff conditions.
There's a motion to approve, subject to staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, it's granted. See you next month. Is there any other business to come before the commission? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.